Welcome to the Hyper Polyglot Activist. Learn languages, make a difference. My name is Dr. Carlos Sierra Lopez, and today we're here to discuss what really went down in Prague at the Polyglot Gathering 2024. Now, first of all, this was a wonderful event, certainly in the top three, all the Polyglot meetings I have ever attended, and for a number of reasons. First, the amount of participants. As I said in my previous video, more than 800 participants had registered, but a very high percentage of them also showed up in the end. And this, I think, is because of how easy it is to reach Prague if you are already in Europe, whereas in previous events that were located somewhere more remotely, it was harder for the bulk of the registered participants, i.e. Europeans, to reach that destination. So as a result, some of them ended up not partaking. Now, the second aspect why this was a brilliant event was the quality and quantity of the presentations, as well as the opportunities for language exchanges. My favorite presentation by far was Asia's How to Interact Like a Local in Istanbul. I thought it was very well put together presentation. It was not necessarily the deepest, but it was really, really well organized. So congratulations on that. And there were also other very interesting presentations. Now, bear in mind that I didn't attend most of them. I only attended a small portion because I also wanted to take advantage of the language exchange opportunities for socializing, etc. But there were also interesting presentations by Tim Keeley. For example, he talked about Southeast Asian languages, and also Michael Campbell's presentation on indigenous languages and their revitalization via Glossicas Viva was highly engaging. Now, my presentation, which was about, as you may recall, Chabacano, the group of Spanish-based Creoles that is spoken in the Philippines, featuring languages from the Philippines as the add-straight and Spanish as the lexifier, went pretty well. It wasn't perfect. There were a number of logistic/technical issues at the beginning, which are outside of my control. But once the presentation started, it went relatively smooth. And I really appreciated the depth and range of the Q&A. We had 15 minutes for questions and answers, which was also the case for the rest of the presentations. And I thought that this worked extremely well and could be implemented, for instance, in the next edition of the Polyglot Conference. The way the Q&A worked was through an app where you could send your questions either anonymously or writing your name. So that was great because it took all the pressure away from the person who is posing the questions, and it allowed them to be perhaps more sincere or to go more in depth with their queries. At the same time, it was very easy for the presenter to answer those questions, and you could also upvote or downvote the questions as part of the audience, which means that only those questions that the audience believed to be the most pertinent or the most interesting were actually selected the first for the presenter to respond to them. Now, if they had extra time, they could go through all the questions, but at least they did answer those that were the most relevant for the audience. And there were also many opportunities for language exchange. So I got to practice a lot of Portuguese, German, even Serbian, French, Spanish for sure, etc. There weren't as many opportunities, I feel, to practice Esperanto as in the previous year in Poland. But other than that, I really derived a lot of value in academic and linguistic terms. This is the name badge we used for the event, featuring the languages that we speak. I didn't include them all, but I'll do a breakdown of this name badge some other time, perhaps in a separate video. Now, if I have to name something negative, I would say that most people felt as though having the accommodation scattered throughout the city and the event in a different place was not a good decision. They preferred, by and large, having both accommodation and the activities in the same place. I also think there should be more beer. Please drink responsibly. But there definitely was in Poland the year before. But the beer garden, on the other hand, worked really well and made for a lot of community building. And finally, in the concluding remarks, I have to disagree with the organizers in the statement that politics doesn't matter and it is all about language and understanding. Obviously, we know that politics is precisely the art of creating a politeia or a community, and that language and understanding are both pivotal to the construction of that community. As you know, if you have watched any other videos in this channel. So I think we need to stop depoliticizing languages and just be perhaps more explicit and transparent about the inevitable political mediation of languages. Languages are always already mediated by politics, whether we have enough privilege not to acknowledge or not. That's all from me. It was very edifying, social, affordable, well prepared. So I'm definitely counting on attending next year. I'm looking forward to the next edition of the Polyglot Gathering, which will probably take place in Prague again, though that's not entirely decided. And then also to the Polyglot Conference, which will take place in La Valletta in Malta later on this year in early November. What are your thoughts about the Polyglot Gathering? What aspects did you enjoy the most? And if you didn't attend, are you looking forward to either the next edition of the Polyglot Gathering or the Polyglot Conference itself later on this year? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching.